we all have different needs. And that's why, like, when I run my conferences, I always have multiple tracks, right? Like, even in Huntington Beach, a smaller conference, there'd be 12 choices, 8 workshops and 4 lectures. Because I don't know what people want. I don't know what they want to learn. And I don't know what they need. But you know what you need. And that lawyer coming from wherever knows what they need. And so with the opportunity to kind of tailor the education, I think it's really helped people get, results and get better so much faster. Today we have Greg. How do you say your last name, Greg?
Prosmushkin.
See, it's a good thing I didn't try that because I would have messed it up because I'm always saying Prosmushkin.
Listen,
but Prosmushkin.
Any way you want to say it, buddy, I'm down.
All right. And so, Greg, you are how long have you been practicing law now?
I've been a lawyer since 1994, so more than 30 years.
That's crazy. That's the same time that I graduated from law school, but it took me a little longer to pass the bar. So I passed on my first try. Believe it or not, it was a moral character issue. Even back then, I had moral character issues. And you're from where?
Be more specific, now or originally?
Well, that's a good question. So originally, you're from where?
I'm from Russia. I was born in Russia in 1968. Came here when I was 11 years old in 1979.
And what was the reason why'd your family decide to emigrate?
Well, it's a good question. I asked my dad, and he told me that he had the glass ceiling. He is Jewish. My family's Jewish. And back in the 70s, in the former Soviet Union, you were discriminated against, even in your passport. And this is interesting. When you opened your passport, under nationality, it said Jew, not Russian, Jew. So it was institutional discrimination. And my dad came here for more opportunities. I'm glad that he did because here we are, right, Dan?
This is true. And so what is it that inspired you to become to go to law school and become a lawyer?
Well, honestly, it wasn't as noble as one would like to believe.
Money is a good reason.
It wasn't money. I started as an engineering major at Drexel. Didn't go well. Then I moved to business. Didn't go great either. Then I moved to philosophy. I was one of the few graduates with a philosophy degree. Unfortunately, with a philosophy degree, your options are more limited. You either work in a library or you get a higher education. So I went to law school.
And so you've been doing personal injury now for your whole career?
Well, I started as a lawyer who did everything. I was...
Well, everybody, if you start your own business, everybody starts with whatever walks in the door. If I can figure it out and I can convince you to give me some money to do it, we got ourselves a deal.
And for about 15 years, I did everything and not really well. And then about, probably I would want to say in probably 2008, 2009, 2010, I came across guys like you, actually, guys who provide an education to lawyers and say, look, you don't have to be a middle of the mill schmuck. You can actually be good. And once I started learning, and that's when I focused on personal injury only because I realized you really cannot do too much. You can't spread yourself too thin. So I've been doing PI exclusively for about, I want to say 10 to 12 years.
And the learning part is the part that is, I think the greatest right now because the trend, because I went to the trial lawyers college for 12 years, but I think COVID really opened up the world because all those great lawyers have been keeping, they didn't have the opportunity to share or one reason or another didn't. But I think the COVID really, spurred all of that. I mean, obviously it helped me so much and it's unfortunate COVID came, but this is life, right? Life comes. You're not always happy with the situation, but you got to make adjustments. And I was really grateful for that opportunity. And then, because like now there's so much just content and so much to learn. That's really great because the content, we all have different needs. And that's why like when I run my conferences, I always have multiple tracks, right? Like even in Huntington Beach, a smaller conference, there'd be 12 choices, 8 workshops and 4 lectures. Cause I don't know what people want. I don't know what they want to learn and I don't know what they need, but you know what you need. And that lawyer coming from wherever knows what they need. And so with the opportunity to kind of tailor the education, I think it's really helped people get, results and get better so much faster.
Oh, I agree. And listen, one of the greatest things that happened during COVID is Zoom. Zoom is a complete game changer because all of a sudden it made us all connected. I could sit in my office in Philadelphia and watch you doing a podcast from Vegas with lawyers from LA and Tennessee, right? There are no limits now. Now there are no excuses for not learning. Before you say, I'm not going to fly to Vegas, I'm not going to fly to Atlanta because it's going to take me away from my business, from my family. But now you can sit in your office, put on your computer, like your TLU on demand. It's amazing. Do you know what I do? Every day at lunch, I eat a sandwich at my desk and I watch about half an hour of content.
But that's what it has to be about. The consistent. It's like working out, right? You can't just work out 8 hours in a day and skip the rest of the week. It doesn't work that way. It's consistent process of doses of improvement because your mind can only absorb so much information at once, too. And obviously, you have real life you have to deal with, you have real cases you have to deal with. So education has to fit in when it's convenient, which is, what I'm like now that the TLU On Demand is an app, too. Like when I'm at the gym, I put on my little, screen and because there's so much content that I haven't seen because I'm busy running the conference while everybody's speaking. I'm running around like a madman.
And what's important, our brain is really wired to handle about 20 minutes of information at a time. Because after that, you start wondering, you start looking at butterflies, other things. And with your on demand, you can actually frame the time you spend, and you can go say, okay, you know what? I want to see Rabinovitz on opening statements, right? I want to see Panish on Wardeer. I want to see Rowley on, trial by human. It's really, you have years of content every conference. So if you have a question, all of a sudden you have a ready resource available to you anytime you want it.
That's the idea. And we just introduced Dan GPT, the AI function on TLU On Demand. So you can search everything, the all-knowing. That was my idea, Dan GPT, and my little creativity. So Greg, how many personal injury cases would you say you've tried?
I've had probably between 30 and 40 jury trials.
And you've been a lawyer now, coincidentally the same amount of time I have.
But you're older.
Yes, but nobody would ever know that sitting and watching this podcast. But what would you say is your most proud professional accomplishment you're most proud of professionally?
Probably after I tried a bunch of jury trials and I was getting mediocre results and I started learning. And I tried my first case with the stuff that I knew probably in 2009, 2010, and I won for a good number on a difficult slip and fall, which I would have lost 9 out of 10 times before. And I was like, shit, right? This stuff works. And once you get positive reinforcement, you want to do more and more and more and more.
It's fun. Right? Winning
is great. Losing sucks. Winning is great.
Now this is just hot off the presses, the difference that makes the difference. And I see that you and Josh Davis, PhD, are the authors of this. So I can't imagine the kind of discipline it takes to write a book and the kind of inspiration it takes to write a book. So tell us what's behind this book, The Difference That Makes the Difference.
First of all, guys, this book is outstanding. That's number one.
That's completely objective. There's
true.
Unbiased opinion.
It's true. And it's not hot off the presses. This is a advanced reader copy. It can be pre-ordered on Amazon. It's coming out in July. Now, to answer your first question, it doesn't take a lot of discipline because if you enjoy what you're doing, it's not work. It's fun. And Josh Davis is a brilliant neuroscientist from Columbia. I took a public speaking class with him. And we started shooting the shit a little bit. And all the lawyers know the buzzword NLP. But nobody really knows what NLP is. It's just this cool little concepts that use NLP. What NLP is science of the human brain. When we're born, we have the most powerful instrument in the world, our brain. But you know what they didn't give us, Dan?
A manual on how to use it.
That's right. They did not give us a manual on how to use it. You got this.
We're
vibing, buddy. We're vibing.
All right. You got to give me some pre-advanced notice. You ask me a tough question like that.
Well, listen, since we both found out we're doing this podcast about 12 minutes ago, we're doing the best we can, aren't we?
We are doing great.
We're doing amazing.
And I am a more evolved, rugged Maria Monroy If you knew Maria, you would see the resemblance. People think we're brother and sister. But anyway, so you write this book. And so how is this book going to help trial lawyers win more and win bigger?
Well, it's going to do a lot more than that, Dan. It's going to make trial lawyers happy people. Because listen, I can tell you that I thought for the longest period in my life that work makes me happy. But what happens is when you pay too much attention to one area in your life, you kind of screw up the other stuff. You let it go. Your family, your friends, your health. What this book teaches you is how to be a happy person. It treats the brain like a computer. And when you have a computer, in order to type a document, you need a program like Word, Excel, whatever you use in your computer. And what this does, it helps you turn your brain into an effective machine. For example, one of the beliefs that's incorporated, presuppositions are called, in NLP, is the map is not the territory. It's an easy concept, right? When you look at the map of Vegas, you don't see Vegas, you see the map of Vegas. In the same way, the way our brain filters reality. We look at sounds, we look at pictures, we look at feelings, and then we formulate our experience of what's happening out there. But our experience is not an objective experience. As you say, it's a subjective experience. So we can look at the same event, and you look at it one way, and I look at it a different way. I'll give you a perfect example. We're not going to talk about it because it's going to get animated. Right? Donald Trump. We can both look at him. I have my beliefs. You have yours. We're not going to get there because, it'll take this podcast in a different direction. But at the end of the day, if you can understand why I feel the way I feel, or I can understand why you feel the way you feel, then I can be better in influencing what you do because I understand where you're coming from, what your map of reality is. Right?
Oh, absolutely. I always, I say often, and I, teach that, you have to meet people where they're at before you can take them where you want them to go.
Exactly.
And that's a whole game of rapport, right? That's why somebody gives you, in voir dire, they're like, that's a crazy amount of money. And you jump back and it's like, well, I'm going to prove to you why it's worth it. You're not meeting them, but you say, you know what? I can understand, why you might feel that way. And, you're probably not alone. Who else thinks this might be, it's crazy. And so what's behind those feelings? And now you get, because instead of like being defensive, you're like, I can understand where you're coming from. I mean, it is a lot of money, but we got big damage, we got big injuries, right? Or whatever it is. You got to meet people where they're at.
Exactly. And a rapport, there's a big portion of the book because one biggest portion of NLP is rapport. And one of the problems that I find at a lot of these conferences, people tell you, build rapport, right? Or use the POV of the judge or the jury.
Or be authentic.
But they don't tell you how to do it.
Right. Those are the results of doing the work.
Correct. And what this book will do, it'll help you. For example, there is this chapter on second person perspective. Second person perspective is POV, walking in the shoes of the person you're talking to. And this book will tell you exactly what beliefs, what actions you have to take to get the other person's POV. And it doesn't just apply to juries, doesn't just apply to judges, doesn't apply to witnesses. It applies to your wife, to your husband, to your boyfriend, to your girlfriend, to your kids, to your friends, to anything you do. Another example, rapport. We give you tools to establish rapport. For example, did you know that most people communicate in one of three ways? They're either visual, auditory, or kinesthetic. Let me give you an example. I see what you're saying. I hear you. I feel you. If a person is a visual person, you're not going to convince them. If you're telling me, listen, for me to see your point, you have to do this. And I say, well, Dan, can't you hear me? I'm mismatching your predicates. So if you listen to the pattern of the speaker, you're like, this person is visual. So when you use your words to speak to this person, you try to speak with the visual predicates in mind. And there's a lot of great tools in this book that will make you 1,000% a better trial lawyer. But what we're shooting for is to make you a better person all around.
Sounds like the trial lawyers college, buddy. I went there for 12 years. And
Jerry Spence is the man.
That's true. But I'm no longer a fan of the trial lawyers college.
I don't know, man.
You went there.
I did go there.
You went there and look at you, how messed up you are. That's why you had to write this book to find some
That's right.
space there. That's okay though.
I figure after I help myself, let me help others.
That's very generous of you.
You're welcome.
You're such a humanitarian. I've just moved you. I don't even know what to say. So I might actually read your book. It's a lot to read though. I mean, I'm semi-illiterate.
Guys, I'm going to tell you an interesting story. When this book came out, the publisher reached out and said, listen, can you get some people with some pull to read the book? So I reached out to Dan. I'm like, Dan, do me a favor. You got all these lawyers. Can you read my book and give me a blurb? Guys, you know what he said? He said, yeah, I don't read. If you have an audio version.
If you could record it in an audio version, listen to it while I'm on the Peloton. I'm just saying, I'm being honest with you. I could say yes and scan a couple pages and write something.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping you would do that.
That would have worked. Nobody would have known. Exactly. Well, this is going to be exciting to see the difference makes because, as we know, I'm about to transition back into the courtroom and become a trial lawyer again. So I'm excited about that. I mean, like a practicing one, not just one facilitating education for the world. But speaking of education for the world, Greg, you're going to be coming back to because you missed last year, right?
I did miss.
That was, we almost shut the program down.
No, I missed the Vegas. I wasn't at the beach. I only missed the Vegas one.
Oh, you were at the beach. Yeah, the beach is better.
The beach is great.
The beach is great. So this year in Vegas, so you're coming to Huntington Beach with your lovely wife. And what is it that you're most excited about coming to the beach for? Well, you go to a lot of conferences.
I do. And let me say this, guys. One of the major presuppositions of NLP is very empowering one. It's if anyone can do it, I can do it. So the beauty of what you do, Dan, and again, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. I mean, I really appreciate what you're doing, is you're letting lawyers look at guys out there who are getting multi-8, 9-figure verdicts and say, well, you know what? Success leaves clues, doesn't it? So if I do what these guys do, I should get similar results. And that's why I do it. That's why I come to your conferences, because look, I'd like to think of us as trial lawyers, not as house painters, right? That's what the settling lawyers do, right? They paint the houses. They get the case, they get medical records, submit it to the adjuster, settle on the third offer. As a trial lawyer, you'd like to think you're like a Michelangelo. You're perfecting your art. And, the other thing that NLP tells us, there is only one way to ensure happiness, lasting happiness, and that's through growth. So if you don't grow, you stagnate. Anything in life, like a tree, it either dies or grows. Same as with everything else. Us as people, us as lawyers, as friends, as husbands, as wives, as anything. We're either evolving or we're dying. That's some deep shit, huh, Dan?
No, I totally agree. That's why, this exciting part of what I get to do is I get to keep learning so much. And even sitting here, talking to you, learning more and getting to know people, which is always fun too. Now, let me tell you what you should be excited about the beach though, because besides having 4 lecture tracks with the top trial lawyers and 8 workshop tracks, I'm going to take one of those workshop tracks for a day for the time and create a voir dire track where I'm going to have people like Ben Rabinowitz. He's going to do a live focus group voir dire on wrongful death cases. Nick Rowley is going to do a live for 3 hours just for a small group, right? For 20 people with a real focus jury on TBIs. David D. Robertus on employment. So I got these top lawyers doing it, and so I'm going to record it too. So it's going to be great because there's no live voir dires really on video with great lawyers doing it. There's a couple here and there, but this way I'm going to do it, and I'm going to cut it up and then also make little scripts because everything everybody does in the courtroom, voir dire wise, is pretty much a script. As some people say, I don't use scripts, but if you read their voir dires, you can see the patterns over and over and over. And that's why they do it, because it works every freaking time, just like you said. Once you figure out what works, why would you keep changing it? So we're going to have that's going to be something new. And we're doing a boot camp. You're coming to a different boot camp, but we're doing a boot camp with Dave Clark. You'll love Dave Clark.
I'm doing the boot camp with Ben.
Oh, you're on cross-examination.
Yeah,
right.
I'm spending the day with Ben.
Right, on Wednesday, right. June 5th with Ben Rabinowitz. This is the third time he's taught this class with us. And the first 2 times, one was in New York, then the last time in Vegas last year, but just people just rave reviews about it, about what they learned and the new confidence. I love when people walk out of that class and they're like, if I don't learn one more thing here today, that was worth it. That was worth the whole expense, the whole coming here. I'm like, great because you're going to learn a lot more. So if you're happy now, you're really going to be happy then.
So when did you decide to add the voir dire track?
About a month ago, just because like I got to keep innovating. I think, okay, what are people's struggles and why are they struggling? And it's just they don't have any model to follow. And, the thing that sometimes it frustrates me a little bit because they get misled by they watch somebody do something and they, I get it now. And then they want to go try it in the courtroom, but they don't sit down and like learn the materials, right? Like learn and then practice the materials before they get to the courtroom. So when they get to the courtroom, it's somewhat more second nature. It's part of who they are now. And they can see the patterns of conversation because conversation is a pattern, as you know, right? NLP, patterns.
Everything is a pattern.
Everything's a pattern. And once you can see the patterns, then, there's an expression that the trained mind sees patterns where the untrained mind only sees randomness. And so when people watch these voir dires, they're like, oh, that's interesting, but they're not seeing the patterns. And once you can see the patterns and then you can learn the patterns, then I think people are really going to be able to improve their confidence and their comfort and their connection, hence their ability to pick juries that, are in line with what they want them to do.
I agree. I absolutely agree. There's no other way to put it. It's Irina and I went to see Tony Robbins in December in not too far from here. It was in Palm Beach. And one of his main things is everything is a pattern. And if you can become adept at recognizing patterns, you're unstoppable.
All of learning is pattern recognition.
Right.
Just like tying your shoe and the first pattern you saw over and over. They show, you do, you show, you try, and then, oh my God, I can try my shoe or my bike. It drives without falling over. This is amazing, because it's like just seeing it, understanding and doing it.
Right. And that's a perfect example. I guess picking a jury is like tying your shoe. You can learn from your own mistakes, and it takes, 18 to 24 months to figure out how to tie your shoes, or you can have somebody show you how to do it and get it done in a couple of minutes.
This is all true. And on top of all the great learning we're going to have, because it's going to be great. And like I said, we're doing a boot camp for 15 people with Dave Clark, the Dark Arts, the 4 days before. But the Tuesday before, on June 3rd, my friend Ed Saramboli is going to host a surf camp. And my friend Kurt Zander is going to take a bunch of people out and do some K1 go-kart racing.
Ed is a Philly guy, by the way.
He is a Philly guy. Are you friends with Ed?
I am friends with Ed.
Ed's a great guy. And we're going to have great parties. I hope you guys will get themed up a little bit for our parties. Like Thursday night, it's going to be a Elvis and Marilyn party. And
wow.
With live music every night and live band karaoke. Everybody loves to karaoke. So we have that going. So I'm pretty stoked about it. I'm glad you're coming back. I think it's going to, we buy out the whole hotel. So it's just a unique experience having everybody there with us. And you'll have more fun this year because more people. So I'm stoked about that. But let's move on to one last thing before we wrap up.
Yes, sir.
That is, how fired up are you for the Satch Oliver, John, depositions our trial and damages boot camp, along with the presentation skills? Because you've been waiting for a while to do this class.
I have, guys, and I am excited. First of all, I think Romano and Oliver are amazing trial lawyers, and it's just an honor to spend some time with them. And I can't wait for you to teach me how to properly cross-examine Dan.
I can see some I feel some sarcasm.
There is some. I'm not going to lie to you. There is some.
But when you're done, then you're going to be like, okay, I apologize. You were right. I was a little bit, shouldn't have been a smart ass about it because now my whole life has changed because of you. Besides just cross-examination, it's also the rest of the connection stuff. And we combine that with the stuff you have in this book. You're going to be, you're already unstoppable, but you're going to be more unstoppable.
I so hope you're right, my friend.
Oh, trust me, I can see the future, Greg.
All right.
That's one of my strengths, the future. All right. Well, this is going to wrap up of the first episode of Tip the Scales with your host for the moment, Dan Ambrose, and our friendless Greg Prosmushkin.
Prosmushkin.
You
try, ladies and gentlemen.
It's a good try. All right. And Maria, I'm so grateful to you for letting me host this podcast. This has been the honor of, well, not my life, but definitely 2025.
Thank you for having me on. It was a pleasure and an honor. Thank you, guys.